Alright, it's fretboard day. I'm going to go back here, fire up the machine, do some engraving, get the crosses and his name put in the fretboard, and hopefully make no mistakes. That's not likely to happen. Let's go have some fun. I tried this out the other day, and I got to tell you, I'm digging it. I'm sure it's not new to most people, but this stuff is sticky, and it really held down things really well. So we're going to try it on this fretboard. So what you're about to watch me do here is cut out this fretboard, and I'm going to have to eat some of my words, because I said, and I meant it, and I still mean it, that I don't like the idea of having epoxy inlaid inlays. Let me show you something. This is a test that I did the other day. And Skeeter's name came out pretty good, and the crosses came out good. The cutting into the wood. Now this was with my 20-degree V-bit, and it cuts almost all the way through. Forget this over here. But, well, actually, don't forget this. So this part right here, this was me attempting to cut out a cross that I would lay in here. And what you see is it disintegrated. It just turned to dust. And I thought, well, that's to be expected. I mean, it's cedar. It's, you know, it wouldn't hold up really well. But so I'll try it with some maple. I tried it with some maple. Got the same result. I tried it with some ebony. Got the same result. I even tried it with some aluminum, because at least that wouldn't disintegrate, right? Got some old piece of scrap aluminum over here. And let me bring this a little closer to you. So that is the outside profile. This is what it looks like before it gets cut out. And by the time you get it cut out, it's like trying to make jewelry on a CNC. I mean, this is very small. You see it how it is compared to the size of my dirty fingernail. But even after I cut it out, it was just ugly. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go ahead and either do two things. One of two things. I either have to make the cross bigger or keep it the same size and go with a different method of doing the inlay, or what we're just going to call inlay. And I've seen guitars with bigger crosses, and I'm sorry, it's just not my thing. That's all I can say. It's just not for me. I wanted something that was kind of petite looking and just not huge crosses all over the guitar. It's supposed to be an accent. It's not supposed to be the statement. So I've opted to go with some powder that I found over at my local Woodcraft. I got a packet, kind of a sampler packet. That didn't work out well. Got a sampler packet of it, and I think it's going to work out really well. It's going to look nice. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and cut out this fretboard here today. And I've got all my tool paths already ready, and it's ready to carve. I'm going to do, Skeeter's name's going to go over here, and the crosses are going to go all the way down. And so I'm going to run that tool path first. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to run that tool path first. Then I'm going to come back and put the powder in there and do all of the super glue and stuff like that. Hopefully that works out well. I'm not using epoxy because the stuff is, the crosses are so small, I'm worried about it not sinking in well enough. But if I put the powder and pack it in the holes and fill that in with super glue, I think that's going to do a good job. I'm going to let that dry. I don't know if I'll use activator to dry it or if I'll just let it dry naturally. But I'm going to do that, and once it dries, then I'm going to come back and run my second tool path, which is going to radius the fretboard, cut the fret slots, and then run the profile around the outside of it. And hopefully, when it runs that profile around the outside, this tape is strong enough to hold it down. I don't know if you've noticed, but I got some new clamps I made. I've used these a couple of times now, and I gotta say I like them. One thing I like about them a lot, they're number one, they're cheap, but that's actually number two. Number two, they're cheap. Number one, they're very strong, and they kind of act like springs. So tightening them down, I've got one back over here as well, and they're really good at holding the wood down. The reason I've got this, I've resurfaced my spoil board because I've had a bunch of cuts on it and stuff. But I had to raise this up because my 1/4 inch V-bit is only like 1.5 inches long, and when I try to Z it, it doesn't touch my spoil board, and I needed to make sure that it can touch the back, the surface of the thing that I'm working on. So let me get this chucked up in the router really quick, and let's get started. If you were paying close attention, I said something that it contradicts something else that I said. I talked about that 1/4 inch V-bit, but before I was talking about my 20-degree V-bit. I've got a 1/4 inch V-bit that I'm using, and the reason I've opted to go with a 1/4 instead of the, I keep on saying 1/4, the 90-degree V-bit instead of the 20-degree is because since I'm not doing the inlay with these little tiny pieces, I don't need such a steep bit. I just need something that's going to carve the shape into the surface and give me something to glue my powder to, and not make me use quite so much powder to put in the impressions. So I've opted to go with a 90-degree V-bit to do that. All right, my Z is set. I'm just going to eyeball where I want X and Y to be. So let me home the machine and we'll get started. Let me show you what I have to do next. I've already got my toolpath loaded up. So I'm going to go over here and load my file. And this one should be Fretboard 1 Engrave. So I'm going to load it. And so that is the first toolpath that's going to run right here, is just going down and putting the crosses in, putting Skeeter's name on there. Let me move this back in place, turn the lights back on, and get started. Now, I'm using very conservative toolpaths, and what you're going to see is this is going to cut extremely slow. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't know how fast is too fast. I don't want to break a bit or gouge some wood. So you don't have to suffer through it. I'll speed it up, but just know that I'll let you see how slow it's moving in the first place. And I don't know how long this is going to take. It'll tell me when I get started. Well, I don't have an answer for why it just did that. I set the Z. Oh, the board lifted up. It's not completely clamped down. It's up. It's not up a lot. It still should have done that. So something's wrong. So let me play around with this a minute. I'll come back to you when I got this figured out. I think my toolpath is running a lot faster than what I programmed it, or at least what I thought I programmed it to do. So let's do a dry run real quick. Let's go over here and look at this. Okay, so that already made contact, which it was not supposed to. So I'm going to zero my Z at that height. So that's as low as it should go. Okay, so right now the bit usually would be spinning. Got my hand on the emergency stop. Okay, so I can tell you right now that my speed of my toolpath is radically faster than what I thought I'd programmed it. So I probably didn't overwrite something, or something went wrong with my file transfer, because this should be going extremely slow, and it's not. If I were going to take a bet, I'd bet that this thing is doing about 126 inches a minute, and it's supposed to be doing 15. So let me stop this, and I'm going to delete this toolpath off of the computer. I'm going to go downstairs and transfer another toolpath up here and come back up here and run it again. Alright, so I was right, the toolpath changed. What happened was when I switched from my 20-degree V-bit to my 90-degree V-bit, it changed the toolpath speed, and I didn't take a look at that. So I've recreated it. I'm still going to run it in the air just to make sure that I got the speed right this time. The board's got a bit of a warp right here. You know, it might be a really good idea is if I run a surfacing bit on this first. I really need that top to be flat. I haven't noticed that until just now. It's touching over here, but over here I got about a 1/16 of an inch gap. Then it goes back to touching over here, which means this is kind of coming up and doing this. So let me surface this board real quick. You know, rather than surface this one, because it's already cut pretty much to the size that I need it to be, and if I surface it, it's going to be thinner and it's going to throw off my geometry. So I'm going to take another piece of rosewood that I haven't run through the planer yet, and I'm just going to do it all up here instead of running it through the planer. And that way, it'll be just like running it through a joiner, because this has got too much of a bend in it for me to trust for this process. So let me go get set up for that. I was going for 255. That's what I got. So we're gonna go with that. It's time to actually run the tool paths that are not going to destroy the wood. All right, I got everything all cleaned up ish. The engraved tool path is loaded. I got my my 90-degree bit mounted. I've got to Z it, so let me do that. X, Y, and Z it since everything's changed. So let's just do one. I'm going to do this manually. And away we go. And there you have it. Now it's ready for me to put something inside those engravings. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll radius the fretboard, cut the fret slots, cut the nut slot, and then it'll be ready to go on a guitar that I haven't built yet. So stay tuned for the next one.